So we just got done reviewing Quick Analytics, and you may be asking yourself, how am I going to see all of the items? I know I can review those individually, but how will I see all of the items and how they're performing to the strategy in the system? Well, I'm glad you asked that because we do have a tool that will show you that. If you go to Planning and then navigate down to Inventory Health, this screen is going to give you the view of how your items are performing to the stocking strategy in the system. Now, there's a lot of criteria across the top, and we're just going to pick a specific branch, and you have the ability to choose a buyer, a planner, a demand planner based on the information that may be set up for your implementation. You can also view buffer codes and stocking type codes and work centers. I'm going to focus a little bit on the ABC classification. Now, we haven't talked a whole lot about ABC classification, but ABCs are codes that are assigned to specific items based on how they're performing in the business. If I give you an example of an AA item that everybody will understand, AA items would reference McDonald's French fries. So those are items that are always moving every day, almost every order that goes out, there's a McDonald's French fries that's in there. If I look at the opposite end of the spectrum, which is a DD item, then those would be things like hot apple pies or banana cream pies. You don't hardly ever sell them, and they're not a large demand. If I look at something that's in the CC category, that may reference something like the McRib sandwich that's very seasonal, and you don't get a lot of orders for that throughout the year unless it's in that period that they're offering it. So ABC classification, which are all customizable within Cloud Analytics, can give you that ability to see how am I performing based on frequency, or based on volume, or based on margin, or based on total revenue. So you can set those criteria up in the system, and then the system will automatically generate those ABC classifications for you and assign those to items and update them every single day. But if I'm looking at items, I may not be so concerned about the DD items, but I definitely want to look out at the McDonald's French fries type of items. So I'm just going to go through these 6 codes and populate the data and see what it looks like from a grid perspective or a chart perspective. Now you can see this looks a fairly busy chart, but let's kind of walk through that. And what I'm going to do is change one of the measurements on here to see if it's a little bit easier to read. Now, this is measuring by SKU and by day. What I'm going to do is just do a 100% stacked bar chart so you can kind of see the ebbs and flows of the items and it'll make a little bit more sense. Now, if we start at the very bottom, we go from red to yellow to dark green to light green to blue. We look at both the red and the blue as items that are in crisis, right? They're just impacting 2 different areas. If they're red, they're stocked out. So if an item is stocked out, I'm not shipping to the customer, I can't cover my demand within the next 7 days, that item is tagged as red. I'm impacting the customer. If the item is blue at the opposite end of the spectrum, then I'm overstocked or have excess. And so what is it doing? It's impacting my cash flow in the company. Then we have yellow, which is items that, hey, I may not have enough to cover my total demand, but I do have enough to cover my demand in the next 7 days. Then I've got the dark green category, which shows me items that I'm moving between 0 and 50% of my stocking level that I have in the system. Then the light green is anything from 50% to 100% in the system. Obviously, excess is above and beyond that. And so this gives me the ability to kind of see that information over time. Now, if I don't want to see the dark green and the light green together, I can go ahead and summarize that information, and it kind of gives me my view of how I'm doing in my business. So right now, I'm averaging about 20% of stock out items. You can see I'm a little bit higher here towards the end of the period. Now, the question would be, well, what makes up that 20% and what makes up these different categories? So if I scroll down, it gives me the ability to see, based on the tabs that's here, the current stocked out items. I can look and see what's the item number, what's the location, what's my APC classification, what's my available on hand inventory, what's my firm demand, and what's my shortage against the item. So you can see all that information. I can also download that. I can take a look at items that I'm currently in excess. So those are on the opposite end of the spectrum. And then I've got items that I can look at that's in warning, which is also the yellow category that's here, so I can see those. I can also take a look at historical stockouts. So I'm looking at this particular item How many times have I been stocked out? One time. How many days was I out? 3 days. What was my max and what was my min and what was my average? If I start to come down and look at this, I can sort this and see what are the items that I've been stocked out more than once. So on this particular item, I've been stocked out 4 times. I've been out an average of 4 days. The sum of total of 4 days, while the min and the max were one. And you can see my average was 1 day each. So this is some good information, but as I go down here, you can see some of the items where I've been stocked out for quite a long time. And so this is great information for you to view very quickly to see what's the history of my stock outs. I can filter this history by 6 months, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months to kind of take a look at that information. I can download this information as well as download the report into Excel and do some additional filtering criteria on it. So this is a great way of tracking that throughout the time that you're looking at these items. You can filter the data down to be, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, up to 12 months as the data gets populated in your system. You can also see that up here in my URL, I have planning, inventory health, what my branch is, and then my ABC classifications. I can filter this, and then now that becomes a favorite of mine, as well as, like we mentioned before, you can copy and paste that into a new tab, and then someone will be able to go in and use the link to go right to this exact page.